So I am going to get started while still letting some people in. So this session is the last session of the course. It's going to be a debrief on a debrief of what we've already done, and then looking at the main things to remember when making a competitive application. So just a reminder again that you can go to slido.com if you have any questions and put in the code Homerton. You've done it really well in every other session, so I'm sure you know how that works now. What we're going to cover is an overview of each of the previous sessions, looking at your university application timeline. We're going to look at some key dates to remember, some programs and things to look out for next, and some key points to remember for a competitive application. And there'll be plenty of time for you to ask questions as well. So this is what we looked at in the previous sessions. The first session was a session on universities, courses and colleges, where you looked at how to make decisions about those things, how to choose a course, what kinds of things to think about when you're choosing a course, how to choose a college, specifically at Cambridge, and choosing universities in general as well. The second session was about financing university, and in that session we looked at what the costs of university are and what support you can get to help with those costs. In the third session we looked at how to write an impressive personal statement, what kinds of things to put in there, what universities will be expecting and looking for, and what things to avoid as well. In the session after that, you got to ask lots of questions to our Cambridge students who came for that session, and you had a huge amount of questions for them, and it was really nice to be able to see you ask lots of questions and get lots of information on university and also particularly Cambridge and Homerton College. In the next session, we looked at how to do well in written assessments, all about the different types of assessments that we have here at Cambridge, which ones you might need to take for which subjects and how to prepare for them as well. The session after that was about Cambridge arts interviews, and we had a guest speaker in that one, our arts admissions tutor here at Homerton, Sandy Mill. And in that session, we looked at general information about interviews and some myth busting, but also we tackled some sample interview questions that you might get for an arts or humanities interview. The next session was about STEM interviews at Cambridge, and that one was led by another guest speaker, Dr. Paul Elliott, our sciences admissions tutor here at Homerton. And in that session, you learn all about what kinds of things interviewers are looking for in a science interview or STEM interview, and we also tackled some sample questions as well. This final session is a debrief of what we've looked at and how to make a competitive application, the key points to remember. Before you all start asking questions about recordings of these sessions, you are going to be receiving a recording of each of these sessions and a link to the presentations as well. I've already started putting this together to send you, but because I'm going to wait until we have today's session in it, you won't be receiving that until after the bank holidays, so expect to be receiving it at some point next week. What I'll also put in that email that I'll be sending you all with that information is you're very lucky that some of our current students have volunteered to share with you their personal statements that they sent in when they were applying to university, and I know that some of you asked if you could have access to those, so I'll be sharing some of those as well with you when I send you all of the content from the course. Now let's look at your university application timeline. This looks a little bit overwhelming, but it isn't that overwhelming really. So the first thing that you're going to be doing, and that I know a lot of you have done already, is choosing your course and universities. And that's something you can be doing now, but also you have some time to be doing that as well. You'll also now and over the next few months be engaging in supercurricular activities around your subject, hopefully, and I'll give you a link to our resources page to help with that. It's in this presentation, but obviously you'll also be receiving this presentation. Then you'll start to be writing your personal statement. Your school might give you an idea of when they want you to start writing that. I've put here April to September. It's basically up to you when you start, but you want to be working on your sort of around mid-September. You want to have your final draft ready, because your school will probably want to just look over that before you submit it for the deadline. You'll then be registering for admissions assessments. Some of them you can start registering quite early in the summer, and then up to September, and I've got the deadlines for those on one of the next slides. Something that you'll be doing as well when you submit your application, and maybe thinking about before that, is choosing whether you're going to be selecting a particular college. Now, obviously, we want you to select Homerton College, and hopefully by meeting the students on the course, you've had a taste of what it's like to study at Homerton College, but obviously you are allowed to pick whichever college across the university, or whether you want to be making an open application, which means that you're not selecting a particular college and you'll just get allocated to one. And that only applies if you are looking at Cambridge, not for other universities. The next thing you'll be doing is submitting your application by the 15th of October. Now, in your head, that deadline should be a little bit earlier because your school will be submitting it for you, adding in your teacher reference and your predicted grades after you've put in your personal statement. So they'll be, usually it'll be them clicking that final button once you've done the rest of it. So your deadline in your head should be before the 15th of October. After that, you will get emailed once you've sent in your application, and you will get asked to submit the additional questionnaire that I spoke to you about, called the My Cambridge application. And the deadline for that will be the 22nd of October. After that, you might be asked to submit some written work and you might have to take an admissions test that you will have already registered for. And that will happen somewhere between August and October, maybe even November for sending in the work. After that, you might get invited to an interview. If you do, then they will happen in December, the first 2 weeks of December. In January, you'll get the decision about whether you are made an offer. Then you have to work hard to make sure that you meet that offer. And in August, you find out if you have met that offer on results day. And then you would start your course in October 2025 if everything goes to plan, or start a course at another university, or choose to take a gap year, or whatever else you might be choosing to do. Just a reminder here of the typical offers that are made for arts and humanities at Cambridge: A star, AA, and for sciences at Cambridge, typically 2 A stars and an A. Now, they can differ very slightly from this if a college feels that that's what they want to do, but these are the typical ones. Here are some key dates. So I'm just going to see some of your questions because they refer to the slide I've just looked at, so I think that's easier. Where does preparing for an admissions test fit into the application timeline? Good question. Well, somewhere between registering for it and taking it. So I would suggest around the summer. This summer, before you, because you'll be taking the test around the same time as you'll be submitting your application. So starting in the summer is really great, and then doing more of that when you start year 13. And can another college give you an offer if the one you applied for doesn't? Yes, there is something called the winter pool So if your college thinks that they don't have a space for you, but they think you're a really strong candidate, they might put you in what we call the winter pool, and then another college might well take you out of that and make you an offer. If so, you will be told, well, actually it will happen before you even get the decision. So you will just get an email that says you've been made an offer from this college, and you'll realize it's a different one to the one you applied to, and you'll then understand that that's because you've been made an offer from a different college. So going back to these key dates, here are the key dates for the admissions tests registration deadlines. So if you are wanting to study law, you have to take the LNAT, and you have to have registered for that assessment by the 15th of September. If you want to do chemical engineering and biotechnology, engineering, natural sciences, or veterinary medicine, then you will be taking the ESAT, and you'll have to have registered for that by the 16th of September. If you want to do computer science or economics, you will have to be taking the TMUA, and you'll have to have registered for that by the 16th of September. And finally, if you want to do medicine, you'll have to take the UCAT, and you'll have to have registered for that one by the 19th of September. If you just remember 15th of September for all of them, then you'll make sure that you've done it in time. Or you could just remember 1st of September, just make sure that way you'll just have done it and you don't need to worry about it. To be honest, do it as soon as you can, because places fill up as well for these assessments. By the 26th of September, you'll have to have taken the UCAT, the assessment for medicine. The reason I put by this date is because you can take this on different dates. The 15th of October is the deadline for you to submit your UCAS application if you are applying to Cambridge, Oxford, and most medicine, veterinary medicine, or dentistry at any other university. The 16th of October is the deadline for you to have taken the LNAT if you are looking to study law. And again, I've put by this date because you can take it on a range of different dates. Some more key dates. If you are taking the ESAT, then the assessment date will be either the 15th or the 16th of October. And that's, bear in mind, that is the day of the UCAS deadline. So you want to make sure that you've got that application sent in and out of the way before that. And then the assessment date for the TMUA for computer science and economics is the 16th or 17th of October. So again, really close to that UCAS deadline. Make sure you're thinking about it ahead and not just realizing on the day you've submitted the application that you also have to prepare for this assessment that's happening the next day. After that, by the 22nd of October, you will have to have completed the My Cambridge application, which your college will send you. And if you want to submit an extenuating circumstances form, which is a form written by a doctor or social worker that says a bit more about something that has affected your education, then this needs to be sent in by the 22nd of October. December is when you will have your interviews, usually in the first 2 weeks of December. The 31st of January is the deadline to apply for the Cambridge Foundation year, and also for all other UK university courses. So if you're thinking of any other university, the 31st of January is the deadline for you, if you're not thinking of Cambridge, Oxford, dentistry, medicine, or veterinary medicine. Some things to look out for next. So, somebody says, for extenuating circumstances, is this the same date for all universities? That's a really good question. So you can see the deadline for extenuating circumstances is quite early. It's earlier than the UCAS deadline for other universities. So no, they are not going to expect to have that before you've even applied to their university. So it will be different for other universities. So the next thing to look out for is our resources page. So on the Homerton website, you can find lots of resources with supercurricular activities that you can have a look at for all our subjects that we have here at Cambridge. If you're wondering what to read, what more to read, what to do to help with developing your knowledge in that subject, then this is what you should be looking at. Obviously, there's lots more that you can look at, but this is a really good starting point. What to look out for after that? At Homerton here, we are running some free guided tours of the college. So if you want to come and have a look at Homerton and meet some of our current students, then you can do that. You can book onto our tours. There are some happening next week, actually. So you can do that. It's linked here, but you'll only get this presentation once I've sent you everything. So the best place to find it is just type Homerton College Tours and you'll find it on Eventbrite. There's just another question. For extenuating circumstances, does the form have to be submitted by a current social worker, or can you ask a previous social worker to submit a form? That's a really good question. I think you could probably ask a previous social worker to submit it, but only if that condition or whatever they want to talk about is sort of still applicable, I guess. I guess it would be worth bearing in mind why you're wanting to ask the previous one. Is it because it's a situation that only they knew about? And if so, I think that makes sense. Are most Cambridge tours in the summer? You're right, we have open days, and that's actually on the next, no, it's not on the next slide, it's on the 2 slides later. We have open days in the summer where you'll be able to see all colleges. In terms of individual college tours, not a lot of them do this. We do this, and a few other colleges do, but a lot of sort of university open days are in the summer. Oh no, it's taken me out of this again. Okay, we're good. This is very annoying. Okay. So at least this time it was taking me to the website, which is fine. The next thing to look out for is the Homerton College Essay Programme and Design Programme. These are 2 programmes that we're running here at Homerton. They start with a range of webinars that you can attend to help you with writing your own essay or designing your own sustainable design to solve an issue to do with sustainability. And then you might get invited to our summer school at the end of that. So this is a really great opportunity to develop your skills and learn more. And you can apply for these. They are open to everyone. Applications close on the 1st of May. So again, have a look, type in Homerton College Essay Programme or Homerton College Design Programme and you'll find them. But also when I send you this presentation, you'll be able to click straight on those links. The next thing that I wanted to let you know about is the Cambridge Open Days. There are some in July, the 6th. Oh, no, that slide is from 2023. There are some in July. I think it's the 4th and 5th of July for 2024. They're always early July. And then there'll be one day in September as well. And that's days where the whole university opens up. There are student ambassadors everywhere. All of the colleges will welcome you. All of the departments will as well. So these are really great days to go to if you're thinking of applying to Cambridge. Another thing I wanted to mention is to follow us on our social media to keep up to date. We always post any latest programs or things that you can get involved with. So do follow us on our Instagram and our Twitter, or we're not supposed to call it Twitter, our X account. I'm just going to have a look at some of your questions before I move on to this slide. Can schools submit an extenuating circumstances form? The ECF, the extenuating circumstances form, is normally something that has to be submitted by a social worker or doctor. However, your school can put something about any extenuating circumstances in your in their reference about you. And what they could say is, in addition to this, have a look at the extenuating circumstances form that has been submitted as well. Equally, if there isn't any kind of doctor or social worker that can certify anything, just ask your teacher to put information in your teacher reference for you. Are each of the open days the same, or are some areas only open on certain days? No, so the 2 July ones should be exactly the same. The September one usually has a little bit less. I believe the September one doesn't have the departments open, it just has the colleges. And that's because often when it comes to September, people know they want to apply to Cambridge and they know what subject, but they're just kind of deciding which college. So we do another one just with the colleges, but the July ones are everything is open. So that's the best time to come, really. Key points to remember for a competitive application. Make sure you're predicted the grades required for the universities you are applying for. Make sure you're taking the required subjects, if there are any required subjects. Make sure you're genuinely motivated and interested in the subject that you are applying for. Make sure you choose your course carefully, so that kind of ties into that. But it's not just subject, it's also the specific course. Have an open mind and a willingness to learn new things. Be organised and plan ahead. Think critically in your personal statement and your interview. And finally, breathe. Everything will work out. Things go wrong sometimes, like you happen to share your screen and you didn't want to share the content of your screen. But at the end of the day, everything does work out. And if you don't get to exactly the university that you wanted to go to, or I don't know, you're not predicted the grades you were hoping to get predicted, or you don't obtain the grades you were hoping to get, it is all okay. There are other places that you can go. There are other things you'll be able to do. People always end up very happy wherever they do end up, and it's really worth not being completely stressed out about the application process, because you'll ruin it by being completely really anxious. Just to share a personal anecdote, when I was applying to Cambridge, I was obviously nervous when I came for my interview, but I tried to remind myself that my other choices were also going to be really exciting. I had applied to Durham, York, Warwick, and Bath as my other choices. And I spent a lot of time looking at the accommodation in Durham and in other universities just to get excited about those as well. And realizing that it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't get into Cambridge. And I think that helped me to have more of a relaxed attitude, thinking that this is an amazing opportunity. And if it works out, then that's amazing. But if it doesn't, everything will still work out. I've already told you this, but I'm going to be sending you presentations and recordings for each session for you to look over. Make sure to check your spam just in case that email doesn't get to you. And do email me if you have any questions. I'm expecting to send you that email next week. So if you feel that even through checking your spam, you really haven't got it by the end of next week, then you can get in touch and ask why you haven't received that. Congratulations, I wanted to say, for completing the Homerton College Higher Education Access course. You've attended a huge amount of sessions, you've learned a lot of information, it's a lot to take in, it's a lot of hours of your time that you've spent listening to me and other people talking and engaging, asking questions to find out more. And that's really, really impressive that you've taken time out of your busy school year to do that. And it shows that you are really motivated and you're going to get to really great places, regardless of what happens. So congratulations again for completing this program. I am going to ask you now to complete a survey about your experience on this course. I realise that you might be watching this on a phone and then you won't be able to scan this QR code. If you are able to scan this QR code now, I'll leave it up for a bit so that those who can do that. If not, I will put the link to this in the email that I send you next week, so that if you can't do it now, you can do that later. We really appreciate to get your feedback. It's also a lot of time for us to run these and to organise this kind of programme. So let us know what you thought was helpful, what you found not helpful, what you thought was what you would have liked to, anything else you would have liked us to include, or how we could have done something differently, but also what you thought we did well. We really want to know. It's really helpful for us, and it's helpful for other people like you who will be attending this in another year. And the only thing I had on the next slide was for you to ask any questions if you have any. So this is the time for you to ask any questions. I'll leave this QR code up so that you can do that now if you want to, but in the meantime I'll answer any questions. Will we have any proof of some kind that we completed this program for when we do our applications? That's a good question. You won't, but you also won't be asked for it. It's something that I can think about actually. If you would appreciate having a kind of certificate that you've completed the program, it's something that I can look into doing. I will make a note of that. What I think the easiest way to do that is, to be honest, you can put in your application that you took part in the Homerton College Higher Education Access course. You don't need to prove it, that's absolutely fine. I would advise not putting it in just to say you've done it, but with some kind of purpose. So for instance, I really enjoyed taking part in mock interview questions with Dr. Paul Elliott from Homerton College. You don't need to put all the information, but and that really made me look into more a particular thing. I just think it's best if it's got a purpose rather than just you trying to say that you've done something. And if you get in touch with me, it will be easier for me not to automatically do this for everyone. So if you do want some kind of evidence or certificate, then get in touch with me and I can do that. Any other questions or anything that you wanted to say? If you don't feel like completing the feedback form, but you want to just send in some feedback here, that's also really helpful for us. Any questions that you have? Anything you wanted to ask? There's still some time in this session. If you don't feel that you want to ask any more questions, you are free to go. In UCAS applications, can you add your Duke of Edinburgh under qualifications? Good question again. I believe you can. I don't know if you need to, but yes, you can. It's usually more academic qualifications that a university like Cambridge would be looking at, though. How do we get in touch with you? Good question. Use the email that you used for that I emailed you at the start of this program with, which is access at, actually I've put it on this next slide. There we are, access@homerton.cam.ac.uk. That is how to get in touch with me. If you have any further questions at any point, I'm very happy to answer those. I'm going to wait here to see if there's any more questions. I know the essay competition is useful for all Homerton courses, but would it be worth mentioning in medical personal statements for non-Cambridge choices? I'm assuming you mean the essay one that we run here at Homerton, but in general, you can mention any competition you do for any university. They will all find it impressive. Should we have decided on what course we want to do by mid-April? No, I think I put it as April to September. So no, you have plenty of time. Some people decide at the very last minute. Obviously, the earlier you decide, the more you can do to help with that application. Say you failed the UCAT test, are you able to redo it in the same year, or do I have to wait next year? Another good question. I don't know the details on every single assessment, so that is probably something to look at on the UCAT website. Just type UCAT You'll find information on whether you're allowed to take it multiple times. You might be allowed to take it multiple times, but I can't guarantee that. And also, yeah, have a look at actually, when you say failed, not all tests have a specific mark that you need to obtain. So do have a look exactly at what you need. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask? Can you put a thumbs up if you're still wanting to ask further questions? Otherwise, I think we will probably end this session soon. Thank you for everything. That's very kind. Thank you. I'm glad you found it helpful for those that have just put that in. That's really nice to see. And do feel free to get in touch with us again if you have any other questions later down the line, maybe when you look back at the sessions or a session that you missed and you watch the recording and you have more questions, get in touch with us. Another question, what are your thoughts on someone applying for 2 courses at Cambridge as part of their 5 choices? You can't do that. So that's a pretty easy question. You can only apply for 1 course at Cambridge or Oxford, as in you can only apply to Cambridge or Oxford, and in whether you apply to Cambridge or Oxford, you can only apply to 1 course. For the Homerton College Design Programme, do we apply as teams by ourselves or do our teachers do it? You apply in teams, you're right, and it's by yourself. So you just agree together to apply. You don't need your teachers to get involved. I will wait another minute to see if there are any final questions, and then I will end this webinar. Again, oh, there's another question. Can you do the Homerton design competition individually? For the design one, you have to do it in teams, whereas the essay one, you have to do individually. How would I include listening to a podcast in my personal statement? I've been thinking about it, but I'm struggling. So you would talk about something that you found particularly interesting. Say, I've been watching this particular podcast and there's a particular bit that I found really interesting. And that's led me to that's increased my interest in wanting to study this course. You might want to talk about something and talk about something specific that you heard that really struck you as being really important. Maybe you link that to something else that you know. I'm going to send you some sample personal statements, so that might be a good thing to have a look at to work out how to include supercurriculars in a personal statement. That was my 1 minute timer. So on that note, I am going to end this session here. It's a little bit earlier than expected, but hopefully that shouldn't be a bad thing. You should be pleased that it's a little bit earlier. Thank you so much again, and get in touch if you have any other questions. I hope you all have a really good evening.